What if I told you that some of the most iconic black legends in music, film, and entertainment, those we admired for their brilliance and power, were secretly fighting demons that fame couldn't fix? Behind the hits, awards, and sold-out shows were addictions so deep, they nearly lost everything. Some did. From wild headlines to heartbreaking confessions, these are the stories of legends who fell hard into addiction and the dark side of success they tried to escape. Here are 15 black legends who became the worst drug addicts. 15. Rick James. Rick James was the ultimate funk superstar, a wild force of nature whose music defined an era. With hits like Super Freak, he ruled the 1980s funk scene with swagger and unapologetic excess. But behind the dazzling persona was a man consumed by addiction. Rick's drug use was legendary. Cocaine, crack, and a cocktail of other substances fueled his chaotic lifestyle. His addiction spiraled out of control, leading to erratic behavior, legal troubles, and a steep decline in his career. Despite his immense talent and influence, the drugs nearly destroyed him, turning him from a chart-topping star into a cautionary tale of excess and self-destruction. His battles with addiction were as public as his music, and they shadowed his life until his death in 2004. 14. Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston's voice was a gift to the world, angelic, powerful, and flawless. But beneath that golden exterior, she wrestled with a long, painful addiction to crack cocaine and other substances. The pressures of fame, combined with personal turmoil, led her down a dark path that was impossible to escape. Her addiction was well documented, with multiple stints in rehab and public struggles that played out in the media. The drugs took a devastating toll on her health and career, culminating in her tragic death in 2012. Whitney's fall from grace was as heartbreaking as it was public, a stark contrast to the superstar she once was. 13. Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor was a comedic genius whose raw, honest humor broke new ground, but his brilliance was marred by a brutal crack cocaine addiction. Pryor's drug use was so intense that in a notorious incident, he accidentally set himself on fire while freebasing cocaine, a near-fatal event that exposed the depths of his addiction. His struggles with drugs were intertwined with his battles against personal demons, including mental health issues. Despite his talent and success, Pryor's addiction cast a long shadow over his life, affecting his career and health until his death in 2005. 12. Bobby Brown. Bobby Brown's image as the rebellious R&B bad boy was inseparable from his long, destructive battle with drug addiction. His substance abuse began early, fueled by childhood trauma, and escalated throughout the 1990s into a chaotic mix of cocaine, heroin, crack, marijuana, and alcohol. Brown's addiction worsened during his marriage to Whitney Houston, with both struggling with cocaine and other drugs. Their relationship was marked by public scandals, legal troubles, and intense personal turmoil fueled by their shared substance abuse. Brown's drug use reached such extremes that he once recounted a terrifying episode on tour where he was so high and paranoid he brandished a gun and ran through a field, convinced people were out to get him. He was even kidnapped over a drug debt in 1993, with Houston paying a hefty ransom. Despite multiple arrests and rehab stints, Brown's addiction nearly destroyed his career and family life. Though he has been sober for years now, the damage from those years of drug abuse remains a defining part of his story. 11. Charlie Murphy. Before Charlie Murphy became a household name on Chappelle's show, he wrestled with a dark chapter of drug addiction that shaped much of his early life. Growing up in Brooklyn and later moving to New Jersey, Murphy's youth was marked by exposure to street life and substance abuse. Drugs were part of the lifestyle he initially embraced, including heavy use of cocaine and other narcotics. This period was a hidden struggle, one he rarely spoke about publicly until later in life. Murphy's addiction affected his personal relationships and delayed his creative potential. It wasn't until he found comedy and acting that he began to turn his life around. His sharp wit and storytelling became his new outlet, helping him escape the grip of addiction. Though he overcame his substance abuse, the shadows of those years lingered, influencing his raw, honest humor and the depth he brought to his roles, until his passing in 2017. 10. Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday's voice is etched into the history of jazz as one of its most haunting and soulful. But her life was a tragic battle against heroin addiction. Beginning in the early 1940s, Holiday's heroin use quickly became a lifelong struggle. She was repeatedly arrested for possession, enduring harsh jail sentences that interrupted her career and drained her physically and emotionally. Law enforcement pursued her aggressively, often punishing her more than offering help. The addiction severely damaged her health and vocal abilities, yet she continued to perform, producing some of her most emotionally charged recordings during this turbulent time. Holiday's drug dependency was intertwined with her experiences of racism, abuse, and heartbreak, making her story one of both incredible talent and profound suffering. She died in 1959 at just 44 years old, her body ravaged by addiction and illness, leaving behind a legacy shadowed by pain but illuminated by unforgettable music. 9. DMX. DMX, born Earl Simmons, was a rapper known for his raw, gritty energy and emotional honesty, but beneath the surface was a man locked in a lifelong battle with crack cocaine addiction. His struggles with substance abuse were well documented, marked by numerous arrests, stints in rehab, and public relapses. DMX's addiction was deeply connected to his traumatic childhood, including abuse and abandonment, which fueled his pain and fueled his music's intensity. Despite multiple attempts to get clean, the pull of addiction was relentless, impacting his career and personal life repeatedly. His powerful voice and aggressive style made him a rap icon, but the addiction took a heavy toll. In April 2021, after suffering a heart attack linked to drug overdose, DMX passed away at 50. His death was a tragic end to a life marked by brilliance and profound struggle with addiction. 8. Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye was a soul music legend whose smooth voice and socially conscious songs defined the 1960s and 70s. Yet behind the scenes, Gaye was tormented by depression and a powerful cocaine addiction that worsened in his later years. Following the deaths of close friends and mounting personal pressures, Gaye sought refuge in drugs. His cocaine use escalated throughout the 1970s, contributing to erratic behavior, financial woes, and strained relationships. The addiction took a toll on his health and creativity, even as he tried to find peace through spirituality and his music. Despite efforts to overcome his demons, Gaye's life was tragically cut short in 1984 when he was fatally shot by his father. His battle with addiction was a painful undercurrent to a career filled with timeless music and emotional depth, highlighting the complexity behind the soulful voice. 7. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's battle with addiction was mostly hidden from the public eye, but it was a devastating undercurrent throughout his later life. Known as the King of Pop, Jackson's extraordinary talent and global fame masked a deep dependency on prescription painkillers. His addiction reportedly began after a 1984 accident on the set of a Pepsi commercial, where he suffered severe burns to his scalp. To manage the pain, doctors prescribed powerful narcotics like Demerol, which quickly led to dependency. Over the years, Jackson's use of prescription drugs escalated, including the surgical anesthetic propofol, which he used as a sleep aid. His fear of pain and insomnia became so intense that he relied on doctors to administer these dangerous substances. In 2009, Jackson died from acute propofol intoxication combined with other prescription medications. His personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, was convicted of involuntary manslaughter for administering the fatal dose. Jackson's tragic end highlighted the deadly risks of prescription drug addiction, even for the most gifted and celebrated. 6. Etta James. Etta James, the legendary blues and soul singer, was brutally honest about her long and painful struggle with heroin addiction. Rising to fame in the 1950s with hits like At Last, James's powerful voice belied the turmoil she faced behind the scenes. Her addiction began in the 1960s and persisted for decades, derailing her career multiple times. James's heroin dependency led to arrests and stints in rehab, and she came dangerously close to losing her life on several occasions. Despite the chaos addiction brought, she continued to perform and record, channeling her pain into her music. Her battle with drugs was a constant fight, marked by relapses and recoveries, but it never fully defined her. James's resilience saw her eventually overcome addiction and earn a place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Her story is one of raw talent intertwined with the harsh realities of substance abuse. 5. Sly Stone. Sly Stone, the pioneering leader of Sly and the Family Stone, revolutionized funk music with his innovative sound and electrifying performances. But behind the groundbreaking music was a man crippled by addiction to cocaine and PCP. Stone's drug use intensified in the late 1970s, leading to erratic behavior, missed performances, and a withdrawal from the public eye. His addiction turned him into a recluse, and his once vibrant career faded as he struggled to maintain control. The drugs ravaged his health and creativity, and he became notorious for his unpredictability and absence from the spotlight. Despite his monumental influence on music, Stone's addiction overshadowed his legacy for years. His story is a stark reminder of how substance abuse can dismantle even the most brilliant artistic minds. 4. Amy Winehouse. Though not black, Amy Winehouse is often celebrated within black music circles for her deep soul sound and raw emotional delivery. Her voice carried the weight of classic soul and jazz, earning her worldwide acclaim. But Winehouse's life was tragically cut short by her addictions to alcohol and drugs. She struggled openly with substance abuse, which led to erratic behavior, multiple rehab stays, and a public downfall. Despite her immense talent and critical success, including the Grammy-winning album Back to Black, her addictions spiraled out of control. Winehouse died in 2011, at just 27 years old, from alcohol poisoning, a heartbreaking end to a career filled with promise and pain. 3. Andre 3000. Andre 3000, the enigmatic half of Outkast, has spoken openly about his heavy drug use during the early years of his rise to fame. As one half of the groundbreaking Atlanta duo, he quickly became a symbol of Southern hip-hop's innovation. However, the pressures of sudden success weighed heavily on him. Andre's drug use was part of a chaotic period marked by anxiety, self-doubt, and a search for identity. At one point, he abruptly changed his lifestyle, quitting drinking and smoking, adopting veganism, and even taking a vow of celibacy. He tried to escape the vices that fame brought. Despite these efforts, he struggled with maintaining sobriety, especially after painful breakups and the intense scrutiny of the music industry. His battles with addiction and mental health influenced his music deeply, leading to introspective and experimental projects like The Love Below. Even years later, Andre has described moments of relapse and ongoing challenges, but he channels these experiences into his art, creating music that reflects his complex journey through fame, addiction, and healing. 2. Lisa Left Eye Lopes. Lisa Left Eye Lopes was the fiery, unpredictable member of TLC whose vibrant personality lit up the stage. But behind the scenes, Lopes struggled with alcoholism and possible substance abuse that disrupted her life and career. Her addiction issues led to multiple stints in rehab and caused erratic behavior that affected her relationships and professional commitments. Lopes's battles were rooted in emotional pain and trauma, which she sometimes addressed through her music and candid interviews. Her addiction struggles were well known within the industry, and she often fought publicly to regain control of her life. Tragically, Lopes's promising journey was cut short in 2002 when she died in a car accident at just 30 years old. Her struggles with addiction remained a significant part of her story, revealing the challenges behind the fierce persona she projected. Lopes's legacy is a mix of raw talent and the harsh realities of battling inner demons. 1. Florence Ballard. Florence Ballard was a founding member of the Supremes and a voice that helped define Motown's golden era. After being unexpectedly ousted from the group in the late 1960s, Ballard's life took a downward spiral. She struggled with alcoholism, which worsened as she faced rejection, poverty, and isolation. The addiction compounded her hardships, making it difficult to rebuild her career or personal life. Ballard's financial struggles and health deteriorated rapidly, and she was unable to escape the grip of alcohol that consumed her. She died tragically young at just 32 years old from a heart attack linked to her lifestyle. Ballard's story is a heartbreaking example of how addiction and circumstance can derail even the brightest stars, turning a promising career into a tale of loss and unfulfilled potential. Fame can lift you to the top, but behind the lights, the pressure, the pain, and the past can come crashing in. These legends gave us unforgettable music, laughter, and culture, but they also fought battles we couldn't see. Some survived, others didn't. But their stories remind us that even icons are human. Which story hit you the hardest? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you learned something new, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss more deep dives into the lives behind the legends. Thanks for watching.
What if you found out that some of the most talented black actors of their time were fighting a battle no one ever saw coming? They lit up screens with charm, strength, and unforgettable performances, yet behind the fame was a quiet storm they carried alone. In an era filled with fear, judgment, and silence, many of them hid their illness to protect their careers, their families, and their dignity. Here are 13 black actors who tragically died of AIDS and the stories the world was never meant to hear. 13. Willie Smith. When you look back at forgotten stories connected to black actors who tragically died of AIDS, Willie Smith's name often slips through the cracks, yet his journey hits hard. He wasn't just a jazz musician with a smooth voice and a confident presence. He also stepped into acting, performing in ways that showed he had more range than people realized. His talent gave him a certain glow, the kind that made people stop and pay attention. But behind that confidence, he was dealing with a health battle he kept tucked away from the spotlight. During the 80s, when misinformation and fear filled the air, Willie quietly faced the virus while still trying to work, still trying to stay visible, still trying to hold on to the life he built. He didn't talk much about his diagnosis because the world around him wasn't safe for honesty. Even some of the closest people in his circle didn't know what he was dealing with until it was too late. When he passed from AIDS-related complications, it felt like a piece of cultural memory vanished with him. Today, his story stands as a reminder of how many talented black performers were silenced long before their time. 12. Rudy Mangum. Rudy Mangum is another name tied to black actors who tragically died of AIDS, yet very few people today know who he was or how much promise he carried. Rudy worked mainly in theater and dance, stepping into roles that demanded energy, discipline, and expressive storytelling. He had that rare ability to make an audience feel everything he felt, even without speaking a word. His movement, his expressions, his stage presence, everything about him hinted that he was preparing for an even bigger future in film and television. But as the AIDS crisis spread across the performing arts world, Rudy found himself caught in the same storm that took so many talented black entertainers. He chose privacy over public explanation, partly because the disease carried so much unfair shame, and partly because he didn't want to lose work. In those days, even a whisper of illness could stop a career cold. When he grew weaker, people noticed his absence from rehearsals and productions, but most didn't know why. By the time the truth surfaced, Rudy was already gone, leaving behind only fragments of his work and memories shared by those who witnessed his talent firsthand. His story represents countless artists erased too soon. 11. Reggie Payne. Reggie Payne is one of those performers whose story rarely gets told, even though he stands among the black actors who tragically died of AIDS. He was a gifted actor and dancer in New York, known in theater circles for his energy, charm, and natural sense of rhythm. He moved in a way that made every performance feel alive, and people who worked with him often remembered how deeply he cared about his craft. Reggie wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing expression, connection, and the chance to bring characters to life in honest ways. But while he kept building his path on stage, he was also facing a quiet battle with a virus nobody wanted to talk about. During that time, careers could collapse if someone simply suspected you were sick, so Reggie stayed silent, hoping he could work through the fear and uncertainty. When he began missing rehearsals and stepping back from productions, only a few people knew why. The truth didn't spread until after he passed from AIDS-related complications. Today, his name remains a soft echo in theater history, but his story shows how many rising black performers carried heavy secrets just to survive in a world that gave them little protection. 10. Tony Washington. Tony Washington's name deserves a louder place in conversations about black actors who tragically died of AIDS. He was a dynamic dancer and actor with a natural stage presence that pulled people in the moment he stepped under the lights. Tony spent much of his career in Broadway productions, where he blended athletic movement with emotion, giving every role a vibrant spark. His talent made him a reliable force in the theater community, someone directors trusted and fellow performers admired. But behind the applause and the steady work, Tony was living through a painful reality that he rarely discussed. The AIDS crisis hit the performing arts world hard, and even though Tony kept pushing through, the virus slowly began affecting his health. He continued working as long as he could, determined not to let fear erase his dreams or shake his passion. When he passed from AIDS-related complications, the Broadway community felt the loss deeply, but the larger world barely heard his name. Today, his story reminds you how many talented black performers were lost quietly, long before they reached the wider fame they deserved. 9. Michael Norman Miley. Michael Norman Miley is one of the lesser-known names tied to black actors who tragically died of AIDS, yet his story is heartbreaking in its silence. As the son of the celebrated actress Esther Rolle, Michael grew up around creativity, expression, and performance. He followed that path through acting and dance, stepping into roles that showed he had a natural feel for movement and storytelling. People who saw him perform often felt he was just getting started, preparing for bigger opportunities in film and theater. But the AIDS crisis changed everything. Michael became ill at a time when even the slightest rumor could shut doors, end auditions, or make colleagues step back in fear. He kept his diagnosis private, not because he lacked courage, but because the world around him was harsh toward anyone fighting this virus. His health declined quietly, away from public eyes, and before many even realized he was sick, he was gone. His passing left his family devastated and left the industry without a rising talent who had so much more to offer. Michael's story stands as a reminder of how many young black performers were erased before they had the chance to fully shine. 8. Sylvester Sylvester, the disco icon with the unforgettable voice, also belongs on the list of black actors who tragically died of AIDS. Most people remember him for his groundbreaking music, but fewer realize he also stepped into acting roles in film performances that showcased his bold, fearless personality. Everything about Sylvester felt larger than life, from his dazzling stage outfits to the emotional power he carried into every performance. But as the AIDS crisis swept through the entertainment world, Sylvester faced the virus with a strength many didn't see. He continued working, performing, and showing up for fans even as his health declined. He refused to hide who he was, pushing back against the stigma that tried to silence people like him. Behind the lights, though, the illness was taking a toll, slowly limiting his energy and cutting into his ability to perform the way he once did. When he passed from AIDS-related complications, the world lost a performer who broke barriers simply by being himself. His story remains one of courage, individuality, and quiet struggle, reminding you how many black entertainers fought battles the world never fully understood. 7. Robert Christian. Robert Christian is one of those black actors who tragically died of AIDS, yet his name rarely appears in mainstream conversations. He had a solid career in film and television, stepping into roles that showed he could bring depth and nuance to any character he played. Viewers might remember him from The French Connection, One Life to Live, or his various stage performances where he moved effortlessly between intense drama and grounded realism. He wasn't loud or flashy. Instead, he had a steady presence that made people trust the characters he portrayed. But while he stayed committed to his work, life behind the scenes became much harder. During the height of the AIDS epidemic, many performers hid their diagnoses out of fear that the industry would turn its back on them. Robert faced those same pressures. As his health started to decline, he kept working as much as he could, trying to hold on to the career he built through discipline and quiet determination. When he eventually passed from AIDS-related complications, the news didn't spread widely, and his legacy slowly faded from public memory. Today, his story reflects the many talented black actors whose careers were cut short by a disease that stole far too many. Voices. 6. Jermaine Stewart. Jermaine Stewart may be known to the world as the singer behind the hit We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off, but he also deserves recognition among black actors who tragically died of AIDS. His career wasn't limited to music. Jermaine stepped into acting, appeared on television, and became part of the entertainment world with a confidence that matched his sharp style and smooth energy. Wherever he went, he carried a sense of joy that made people believe he was built for the spotlight. But behind the fun, upbeat image, Jermaine was living through a difficult reality. When he became ill, the heavy stigma tied to AIDS pushed him into silence. Instead of opening up, he kept pushing forward, performing, recording, and trying to maintain the image the world knew. His health began slipping slowly, and only a small circle of people truly understood what he was going through. When Jermaine passed from AIDS-related complications, fans were shocked, but many still never learned the full story. His memory, however, remains tied to creativity, talent, and the personal battles he fought while trying to protect his career and identity during a very unforgiving era. 5. Max Robinson. Max Robinson wasn't just a trailblazer in journalism. He also took on acting roles that made him part of the entertainment world, placing him firmly on the list of black actors who tragically died of AIDS. As the first black co-anchor of ABC World News Tonight, Max broke massive barriers, becoming a symbol of progress for millions of viewers. His presence on television carried weight, confidence, and pride. But beyond the newsroom, he explored acting, appearing in documentaries and dramatic productions that allowed him to stretch his talent even further. However, the world he worked in was not kind to people battling the virus. Max kept quiet about his diagnosis, partly because the public eye felt dangerous, and partly because the stigma surrounding AIDS was crushing at the time. Even as he continued working and pushing through exhaustion, his health grew weaker. When he passed from AIDS-related complications, the truth left many stunned. His death revealed just how vulnerable even the biggest and strongest public figures could be today. Max's story stands as a reminder of the price many Black entertainers paid in silence, fighting a disease they were too afraid to speak about openly. 4. Michael Peters. Michael Peters was more than a choreographer. He was also an actor, and his work earned him a rightful place among the Black actors who tragically died of AIDS. Many people remember him as the brilliant mind behind Michael Jackson's Thriller and Beat It, but fewer realize he appeared on screen too, bringing the same intensity and rhythm into every role he took. Michael had a presence that demanded attention, whether he was dancing, acting, or directing movement. Behind the scenes, though, his life was slipping into a quiet struggle. As AIDS swept through the dance and theater world, Michael became one of its many victims. He tried to continue working, pouring everything he had into choreography and performance, even when his body began to weaken. The fear of public judgment kept him silent, forcing him to navigate his illness privately. When he passed from AIDS-related complications, the entertainment world lost a visionary whose creativity shaped pop culture forever. Today, his story remains a powerful reminder of how many talented Black performers died at the height of their creativity, leaving behind work that still inspires generations. 3. Larry Riley. Larry Riley's story fits painfully well into the history of Black actors who tragically died of AIDS. He was best known for his powerful role in A Soldier's Story and for playing Frank Williams on Knots Landing, where he became a familiar face on American television. Larry brought heart, sincerity, and emotional depth to every role, making viewers believe every word he said on screen. But while his career was rising, Larry was facing a private battle. When he began losing weight, rumors spread quickly, and the pressure to hide the truth grew heavier. The entertainment industry was harsh, and the fear surrounding AIDS made it almost impossible for actors to be honest about their health. Larry tried to keep working, showing up for his career even as his body grew weaker. When he passed from AIDS-related complications, many fans finally understood the struggle he had been hiding. His death highlighted how deeply the epidemic affected Black performers, forcing them into silence at a time when they needed support the most. Larry's legacy remains tied to his remarkable talent and the unfair battle he faced behind the curtain. 2. Howard Rollins. Howard Rollins was one of the most gifted actors of his era, and he rightfully belongs on the list of Black actors who tragically died of AIDS. His performances in A Soldier's Story, Ragtime, and In the Heat of the Night showed he could handle intense drama with a level of skill that placed him among the best in the industry. Howard had a presence that felt larger than life, yet gentle and human at the same time. But while he earned praise and respect for his talent, he was wrestling with personal struggles that made his life harder behind the scenes. As the AIDS epidemic spread, fear and misinformation created an environment where actors had to hide their illnesses to protect their careers. Howard lived under that pressure, navigating the disease quietly while still trying to meet expectations from studios and fans. When he passed from AIDS-related complications, the entertainment world lost a performer who still had so much more to give. His story serves as a painful reminder of how the virus took away some of the brightest Black talents before they reached their full potential. 1. Alvin Ailey. Alvin Ailey may be celebrated as one of the greatest choreographers in history, but he was also an actor, making him a significant part of the Black actors who tragically died of AIDS. His work reshaped the world of dance, blending emotion, culture, and storytelling in ways nobody had done before. But beyond dance, Alvin made appearances as an actor, bringing his expressive style and deep sensitivity to the screen. His artistic presence felt powerful no matter where he performed. Yet behind all his genius, Alvin carried a private burden. As AIDS began to spread through the artistic community, he faced the disease with the same quiet discipline he brought to his work. He kept his diagnosis secret, fearing the harsh judgment that often followed anyone with the virus. Even as his health began to decline, he continued focusing on his company, his dancers, and the art he loved. When he passed from AIDS-related complications, the world mourned a creative visionary. His death revealed just how deeply the epidemic had reached into the lives of Black performers, taking away legends long before their time. His influence, however, continues to shape the arts today. These stories remind you how much pain can hide behind fame, how many legends were lost before the world ever got the chance to understand them, and how easily history can forget those who paved the way. But now that you know the truth, what do you do with it? If you want more hidden stories, more untold truths, and more deep dives into the lives Hollywood tried to erase, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and tell me which story hit you the hardest. Are you ready to uncover the next secret Hollywood never wanted you to see? Or wanted you to see? Or wanted you to see?
20. Colman Domingo. Colman Domingo built a powerful reputation through his unforgettable performances in Fear the Walking Dead and Rustin. But long before he became a household name, he kept his private life carefully hidden. In Hollywood, where every personal detail can make or break a career, he chose silence. For years, few knew he had quietly married his longtime partner, Raul. Colman once lived in fear that being open about his truth would overshadow his craft. It wasn't until he gained confidence in his artistry that he finally stopped hiding. His story shows how even the most talented actors once had to protect who they loved just to survive in a judgmental industry. 19. Meshel Ndegeocello. Meshel Ndegeocello has always walked her own path, bold, soulful, and impossible to label. In the 90s, she shook the music world with her raw honesty and deep artistry. But behind the stage lights, she stayed private about her sexuality for a long time. The entertainment industry wasn't kind to women who defied expectations, especially Black women who didn't fit traditional molds. So Meshel kept parts of herself hidden, letting her music speak when she couldn't. Over time, she embraced her truth publicly, showing strength and peace that inspired many others. Her journey proved that silence was once a shield, but authenticity became her freedom. 18. Bessie Smith. Bessie Smith, known as the Empress of the Blues, broke barriers long before Hollywood accepted powerful Black women. In the early 20th century, she ruled the stage with her thunderous voice and fearless attitude. But behind her fame, she kept her romantic life a mystery. Stories whispered of her relationships with both men and women, yet in her time, such truths could end a career, or worse. So Bessie hid her heart from the public eye, using her songs to express what she couldn't say aloud. Her music carried the pain of secrets and the strength of survival in a world that never allowed her full truth to shine. 17. Wentworth Miller. Wentworth Miller captured millions with his role in Prison Break, but behind the camera, he was fighting a quiet war within himself. Born to a Black father and white mother, he already faced identity struggles that deepened under fame's pressure. For years, he denied rumors about his sexuality, fearing Hollywood would shut its doors if he confirmed them. His silence came from pain, not shame. When he finally came out, it wasn't for headlines, it was for healing. Wentworth's story revealed how even in modern times, being Black and gay in Hollywood could still feel like walking on thin ice. 16. Don Lemon. Don Lemon's smooth confidence on screen made him one of television's most respected voices. But before he found comfort in his truth, he hid a part of himself from the world. Working in mainstream media, especially as a Black man, came with invisible expectations to be strong, safe, and uncontroversial. Speaking openly about his sexuality felt too risky. So, for years, Don carried that silence, building his career carefully. Eventually, he decided he could no longer hide behind professionalism. His courage to live honestly marked a turning point, showing that truth doesn't weaken credibility, and it deepens it. Don's journey became proof that acceptance often starts with self-love. 15. RuPaul. Before RuPaul became the global symbol of confidence and freedom, he had to hide behind makeup, wigs, and a character to survive. In the early years, being both black and gay in entertainment meant rejection at every door. So he built his own stage, one sequin at a time, until the world had no choice but to notice. Behind the glamour, though, was a man who knew what it felt like to hide, to edit himself just to be accepted. Over time, his visibility turned into a movement. RuPaul showed that the very thing he once concealed could later make him an icon of authenticity. 14. Frank Ocean. Frank Ocean changed music with his haunting voice and emotional lyrics, but even more powerful was the truth he kept hidden for years. At the height of his fame, he shocked the world with an open letter revealing that his first love was a man. Until then, he had stayed silent, fearing how fans and the industry would react. That quiet confession wasn't a publicity move, it was liberation. Frank's honesty gave a voice to countless young black men who felt they had to hide the same truth. His courage proved that vulnerability could be louder than any beat or melody. 13. Todrick Hall. Todrick Hall's story is one of relentless creativity and quiet battles. Before he became a YouTube star and Broadway performer, he was just another talented dreamer, afraid to show his full self. As a young black performer, he learned early that being openly gay could close more doors than it opened. So he softened his image, stayed quiet, and played by Hollywood's unspoken rules. But silence didn't suit him for long. Through his music videos and performances, he started telling the stories he once hid. His art became his way of reclaiming power, proving that no amount of prejudice can silence a person who finally decides to live out loud. 12. Kevin Abstract. Kevin Abstract burst into fame with the hip-hop group Brockhampton, redefining what it means to be young, creative, and unapologetically queer in modern music. But that confidence didn't come easy. Growing up in Texas, he faced rejection and fear, so when success came, he still hesitated to show his true self. In the early years, he avoided interviews about his sexuality, afraid it would change how people saw his art. Over time, he stopped hiding, speaking openly through his songs instead of statements. His bravery made him a voice for a new generation of black artists who refused to choose between identity and ambition. 11. Andre Leon Talley. Andre Leon Talley ruled the fashion world with elegance, authority, and unmatched taste. He walked beside icons, shaping the industry's look for decades. Yet, behind his towering presence and booming voice, he carried a quiet sadness. As a gay black man raised in the conservative South, he learned to protect his private life fiercely. The fashion world celebrated his genius, but never offered him space to be vulnerable. He hid pain behind glamour, loneliness behind power. Later in life, he spoke more freely about his struggles, showing that even brilliance can feel isolated when authenticity isn't fully accepted. His legacy shines brighter for the truth he eventually embraced. 10. Tevin Campbell. In the 90s, Tevin Campbell's voice could melt hearts. He was young, gifted, and on top of the R&B world. But success came with silence. The industry wasn't ready for a black male star to be anything other than the perfect heartthrob. Rumors followed him for years, but he kept quiet, afraid of losing everything he worked for. Decades later, when he finally confirmed he was gay, fans didn't turn away, they celebrated him. The fear that once controlled his life vanished, replaced by peace and pride. Tevin's story became proof that the truth may take time, but when it comes, it brings freedom. 9. Jussie Smollett. Jussie Smollett's rise through the hit series Empire made him one of the most talked-about actors on television. But before fame, he lived in silence about his sexuality, terrified that being open could end his career before it began. Hollywood's history of sidelining openly gay black men kept him cautious. When he finally came out, it was a moment of empowerment, though later controversies clouded his image. Still, his earlier courage mattered. It opened conversations about representation and visibility. Jussie's journey showed the complicated balance between fame, identity, and truth, in an industry that loves talent but often fears authenticity. 8. Billy Porter. Billy Porter's voice and presence are larger than life, but the confidence he carries today was once buried beneath fear. Early in his career, he learned that Hollywood wasn't kind to men who didn't fit its mold of masculinity. He tried to tone down his style and hide his sexuality, afraid that being himself would cost him every opportunity. Years of rejection nearly broke him until he decided he had nothing left to lose. When Billy finally embraced his truth, the world noticed. His talent shone brighter, his performances deeper. The same industry that once turned him away now celebrates him as one of its boldest, most authentic stars. 7. Jared Carmichael. Jared Carmichael built a reputation as a sharp, fearless comedian, but behind the laughter was a man living in silence. Growing up in a strict environment, he learned early that being gay wasn't something you talked about, so he didn't. As his career grew, the fear followed him. Every success came with the pressure to keep that secret buried. It wasn't until his HBO special Rothaniel that he finally opened up about his truth. The moment was raw and unfiltered, a release years in the making. Jared's honesty didn't just change his career, it reshaped how comedy could deal with vulnerability and identity. 6. Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry built an empire with his Medea films, turning himself into one of the most powerful men in entertainment. But behind the success and the laughter, rumors about his sexuality have followed him for years. Hollywood's fascination with his private life grew louder, yet he remained silent. He's never confirmed or denied anything, preferring to let his work speak for him. Some say that silence came from caution, knowing how easily the world can judge a black man who doesn't fit its expectations. Regardless, his journey shows the pressure many face to protect their image in a business that thrives on speculation. 5. Queen Latifah. Queen Latifah has done it all: rapper, actress, producer, and trailblazer. But for decades, she kept her personal life completely off limits. From her earliest days in hip-hop, she knew how harsh the world could be toward openly gay artists, especially black women. So she focused on her craft, building a career of power and respect while staying silent about her relationships. Only years later did she begin to live more openly, acknowledging her truth without making it a spectacle. Her quiet confidence spoke louder than any announcement ever could. Queen Latifah proved that privacy isn't denial, it's survival in an industry built on judgment. 4. Alvin Ailey. Alvin Ailey revolutionized dance with passion and depth that came from a deeply personal place. Yet behind the grace of his choreography lay a life shaped by secrecy. As a gay black man in the mid-20th century, he couldn't risk being open about who he was. His art became his voice, filled with coded expressions of love, pain, and identity. The world celebrated his genius, but few knew the loneliness he carried. When he passed away in 1989, his death from AIDS-related complications revealed the struggles he had long kept hidden. Ailey's story remains a powerful symbol of courage lived quietly. 3. Luther Vandross. Luther Vandross had one of the most beautiful voices the world had ever heard. His songs spoke of love, longing, and heartbreak, but never revealed the person behind the feelings. Throughout his career, he kept his personal life strictly private. In an era when being gay could destroy a singer's image, Luther chose silence over risk. Rumors swirled for years, but he stayed focused on his music, pouring emotion into every lyric as if it were the only safe place to speak. After his passing, friends quietly confirmed what he never could. Luther's story remains one of unmatched talent, shadowed by the heavy cost of hiding one's truth. 2. Little Richard. Little Richard was a wild, unstoppable force who helped shape rock and roll itself. His energy, voice, and style were revolutionary, but so was his inner conflict. Openly expressive one moment and deeply religious the next, he spent much of his life torn between acceptance and denial. In a time when being both black and gay meant rejection from all sides, he tried to balance faith, fame, and identity. His music screamed freedom, even when he couldn't live it fully. Though his words about sexuality shifted over the years, one thing stayed clear: Little Richard's brilliance came from a spirit too bold to ever truly hide. 1. Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor's comedy changed the world raw, fearless, and painfully honest. But even the man who laughed through life's darkest moments kept secrets of his own. In later years, Pryor admitted to having relationships with men, shocking fans who once saw him only as a ladies' man. His openness came long after decades of silence and internal conflict. The industry that praised his bravery on stage never made space for the kind of honesty he finally shared. Beneath the jokes was a man who carried both pain and truth with unmatched courage. Richard Pryor's story reminds us that even legends can live years behind a mask before finally revealing their real selves. So now that you've seen the truth behind the smiles and the secrets that shape their lives, one question remains: how many more stars are still hiding their real selves just to protect their fame? In a world that celebrates talent but fears truth, their stories remind us how heavy the price of silence can be. If you found this video eye-opening, hit that like button, share it with others who love uncovering Hollywood's hidden stories, and don't forget to subscribe because there's a lot more the industry doesn't want you to know. Hollywood loves the spotlight, but the truth often hides in the shadows. When some of the most iconic black actors left this world, shocking secrets began to surface. Stories of silent battles, hidden sacrifices, and behind-the-scenes struggles that no one saw while the cameras were rolling. These were the faces that inspired generations, yet their pain often stayed buried until it was too late. From untold health battles to injustices covered up by the industry, here are 20 things we only learned after black actors died. 20. Chadwick Boseman's silent battle. Chadwick Boseman's passing in 2020 revealed something few could ever imagine. While fans celebrated his powerful roles in Black Panther, 42, and Marshall, he was quietly enduring grueling cancer treatments. He kept his diagnosis private, never letting illness overshadow his art or the stories he wanted to tell. Even during exhausting chemotherapy sessions, he chose to film action-packed scenes that demanded both physical strength and emotional intensity. Colleagues later shared how he never complained, carrying himself with dignity and focus. His silence wasn't a weakness, it was a powerful choice to protect his privacy and inspire millions through his work. Only after his death did the world realize the unimaginable weight he carried, teaching us about resilience, strength, and the cost of unspoken battles. 19. Michael Clarke Duncan's financial struggles. Michael Clarke Duncan, best known for his Oscar-nominated role in The Green Mile, seemed larger than life. His warm personality and booming presence made him unforgettable on screen. Yet, after he died in 2012, painful truths emerged. Despite earning fame and wealth, Duncan faced financial mismanagement that left him vulnerable. Reports revealed that people close to him took advantage of his generosity, draining resources he had worked so hard for. Behind his joyful smile was a man who struggled to protect himself from betrayal. This reality painted a new picture of Duncan not just as a gentle giant in film, but also as someone who endured deep personal challenges. His story reminded fans that even the brightest stars can be left unprotected in a world full of hidden pitfalls. 18. Cicely Tyson's unheard stories. Cicely Tyson's passing in 2021 opened the door to stories the world had never fully heard. Known as a trailblazer for black women in Hollywood, her life seemed polished and untouchable. But her memoir, released shortly before her death, revealed decades of pain, rejection, and constant battles against Hollywood's narrow view of black actresses. She fought to break stereotypes, often refusing roles that demeaned black women, even when it meant losing opportunities. Tyson carried herself with grace, yet behind the elegance were struggles she rarely spoke about. After her death, her words allowed people to understand the sacrifices she made and the emotional toll of being a pioneer. What was once unseen became clear. Her fight was far greater than her fame. 17. Bernie Mac's misdiagnosed illness. When Bernie Mac died in 2008, fans were shocked by how sudden it seemed. The world lost a comedy giant whose sharp humor and unforgettable presence made him one of the most beloved entertainers of his time. After his death, the truth about his long fight with sarcoidosis came into focus. Many had no idea he lived with this rare inflammatory disease for years, as he often downplayed its seriousness. Doctors and family later revealed that complications and mismanagement worsened his condition, leading to his untimely passing. His death shed light on the hidden struggles of chronic illness, showing that even those who bring endless laughter to millions can be privately suffering in silence. Bernie Mac's story became a sobering reminder of invisible battles. 16. Whitney Houston's pressure in film. Whitney Houston's legacy as one of the greatest voices in history is undeniable, but after her passing in 2012, new stories highlighted the crushing pressures she faced while stepping into acting. Her role in The Bodyguard became a cultural phenomenon, but behind the scenes, Whitney wrestled with insecurities and constant criticism from Hollywood executives who doubted her acting ability. Balancing a booming music career with sudden film stardom weighed heavily on her. Insiders revealed the exhausting expectations placed on her shoulders and how they intensified her already turbulent personal struggles. Her death reminded the world of how fragile even the brightest stars can be, and how much hidden strain is carried by those forced to live up to impossible standards. 15. Paul Winfield's private struggles. Paul Winfield, celebrated for roles in films like Sounder and The Terminator, was praised for his versatility and depth on screen. Yet, after he died in 2004, truths about his private life became more widely known. Winfield had quietly battled health challenges, including complications from diabetes. But what struck many was the revelation of his struggles with HIV. At a time when stigma was heavy, he kept much of his personal life private, focusing instead on his craft. His passing revealed the quiet courage it took to maintain dignity while living with secrets he rarely shared. The world learned not just of his immense talent, but also the heavy burdens he bore away from the spotlight. His story became one of resilience amid silence. 14. Diahann Carroll's quiet trailblazing. Diahann Carroll was known as a glamorous star who broke barriers on television with her groundbreaking role in Julia. But after her passing in 2019, more stories came forward about the uphill battles she fought in Hollywood. Carroll often faced subtle but powerful resistance from executives who doubted audiences would embrace a black woman in leading roles. She carried herself with poise, yet privately endured the weight of being a pioneer in an industry that rarely welcomed diversity. Friends and colleagues later revealed how fiercely she fought behind closed doors for representation, even when it cost her opportunities. After her death, the full scope of her courage was recognized, showing the sacrifices she made so others could one day walk through the same doors. 13. Gregory Hines' hidden illness. Gregory Hines dazzled audiences with his unmatched tap dancing and charismatic acting. His energy seemed limitless, making his death in 2003 a heartbreaking shock. Only afterward did people learn that he had been quietly battling liver cancer, a struggle he chose to keep private. He continued to perform and inspire others, never allowing illness to overshadow his artistry. Friends later shared how his strength and determination kept him moving forward, even in his final days. The revelation painted a deeper picture of Hines not only as an entertainer, but as a man of incredible willpower who kept giving joy to others while enduring pain. His passing taught the world about the resilience behind the rhythm and the hidden strength within his shining career. 12. Eartha Kitt's outspoken activism. Eartha Kitt captivated audiences with her sultry voice and fierce personality, but after she died in 2008, many people discovered the heavy price she paid for speaking her mind. In the 1960s, she publicly criticized the Vietnam War, and as a result, she was blacklisted by Hollywood and even monitored by government agencies. Much of this history resurfaced after her passing, reminding the world of how she risked her career to stand by her convictions. For decades, she lived with the consequences, often forced to work overseas when U.S. doors closed on her. Though celebrated for her artistry, it was her bravery that shone brighter in retrospect. After she died, her story became not just one of talent, but of fearless defiance against injustice. 11. Sherman Hemsley's secret life. Sherman Hemsley brought laughter to millions as George Jefferson, yet after he died in 2012, surprising details about his personal life came to light. Despite fame and success, Hemsley lived quietly and somewhat reclusively, often avoiding the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Friends described him as eccentric, enjoying solitude and private spiritual practices that fans never saw. His death also sparked a lengthy legal battle over his estate, revealing how unprepared he had been for the complexities of fame and money. These revelations shifted how people saw him beyond the loud comedic character. He was a deeply private man who valued peace over attention. The contrast between his on-screen persona and his real life became more striking only after his passing. 10. Ruby Dee's letters and activism. Ruby Dee was admired as an actress, but after she died in 2014, her personal letters and stories revealed an even deeper side. Beyond her performances, she had been a powerful voice in civil rights, working tirelessly alongside her husband, Ossie Davis. She wrote speeches, organized protests, and quietly mentored younger generations of black performers. Many of these details only came to light after her passing, when tributes and documents showed just how much she sacrificed for justice. Her work wasn't limited to the screen. She fought in real-life battles that shaped history. The world learned that Ruby Dee's legacy stretched far beyond acting. She wasn't only an artist, but a force for change, carrying struggles that often remained hidden while she lived. 9. John Witherspoon's comedy sacrifices. John Witherspoon's death in 2019 revealed just how much he gave to comedy behind the scenes. Known for his hilarious roles in Friday and the Boondocks, he was beloved for his energy and delivery. But after his passing, comedians shared stories about how Witherspoon quietly helped younger performers, often without recognition. He gave advice, opened doors, and sacrificed opportunities so others could shine. What fans saw as a funny, father-like figure was also a mentor who carried heavy responsibility. He endured the grind of the entertainment industry for decades, often underpaid compared to his peers, yet he never stopped giving. After his death, the world saw the bigger picture. His laughter wasn't just entertainment, it was a gift built on sacrifice and quiet dedication. 8. Ossie Davis's unshakable convictions. Ossie Davis was a respected actor, but after he died in 2005, the depth of his activism became even more apparent. He wasn't just taking roles, he was choosing projects that aligned with his beliefs, often turning down opportunities if they didn't reflect dignity for black characters. Stories resurfaced about how he spoke at Malcolm X's funeral, how he pushed for equality on and off the screen, and how he mentored younger voices. His career wasn't easy, and he lost chances because he refused to compromise his values. These truths became clearer after his passing, showing that Davis lived with unshakable principles. His death highlighted how much he gave to both art and activism, leaving behind lessons that extended far beyond film. 7. Thomas Michael Ford's silent health decline. Best remembered as Tommy from the hit sitcom Martin, Thomas Michael Ford's death in 2016 shocked fans. He was known for his warm smile and easy charm, but after his passing, it became clear that he had been dealing with serious health problems. He had long struggled with issues like high blood pressure, which eventually led to complications that took his life. Friends later shared that Ford rarely spoke about his health challenges, keeping much of it private, while continuing to inspire others with motivational speaking and community work. His death revealed how silently he carried these burdens, showing that even while making others laugh, he was facing struggles of his own. Fans learned a deeper truth about the battles behind his joy. 6. Natalie Desselle Reid's overlooked talent. Natalie Desselle Reid's death in 2020 left fans heartbroken, and it also revealed just how underappreciated she had been in Hollywood. Best known for roles in BAP's Cinderella and Eve, she had a gift for comedy and warmth that lit up the screen. Yet after her passing, many reflected on how little recognition she truly received during her career. Friends and co-stars shared stories of her kindness, professionalism, and the energy she brought to every set. Her death reminded people of the quiet struggles many talented black actresses face in an industry that often overlooks them. Natalie's passing brought overdue appreciation for her work, making audiences realize she should have been celebrated far more while she was alive. 5. Esther Rolle's fight for representation. Esther Rolle, known for her role as Florida Evans in Good Times, was a strong advocate for authentic portrayals of black families. After she died in 1998, more stories emerged about how tirelessly she fought for dignity on television. She often clashed with producers over stereotypical storylines, demanding better representation for black culture and family life. Many didn't know how much she sacrificed behind the scenes to keep harmful portrayals off the air. Her passing made clear that she wasn't just acting, she was actively shaping television history. Esther Rolle's courage revealed itself most fully after her death, reminding people that her impact was not only in her performances, but in her determination to create real, respectful images of black life. 4. Yaphet Kotto's Hollywood struggles. Yaphet Kotto, remembered for roles in Alien and Live and Let Die, had a career filled with groundbreaking parts. But after he died in 2021, troubling stories about his Hollywood experience resurfaced. He spoke openly about the racism he faced, but it was only after he was gone that the full scope of his struggles came to light. Casting directors often overlooked him for leading roles, despite his undeniable talent and commanding presence. Friends recalled how he endured constant typecasting, forced into roles that rarely reflected his range. His death highlighted the painful reality of how systemic barriers limited even the most gifted black actors. Kotto's story, revealed more deeply after his passing, exposed Hollywood's long history of shutting out deserving talent. 3. Roxy Roker's groundbreaking impact. Roxy Roker became a television pioneer as Helen Willis on The Jeffersons, where she played one half of one of the first interracial couples shown on primetime television. At the time, the role stirred controversy, but after she died in 1995, people began to understand the enormous weight she carried as a trailblazer. Colleagues later shared that she was fully aware of the backlash, yet pushed forward, knowing how important the representation was. Her death reminded audiences that she wasn't just a performer, but a bold figure who challenged social norms through her work. Roxy's legacy became clearer after her passing, showing that her courage helped break barriers and reshape television history in ways that would influence generations of actors to come. 2. Clarence Williams III's hidden legacy. Clarence Williams III, famous for his breakout role in the Mod Squad,